What is up, my ninjas? I am Strident, and today we are taking a look at the 112 Collective BVS Superman by Mezco Toys. Now, this figure came to me in a bit of a mess up, and it actually is kind of fortuitous because I ended up enjoying the figure enough to keep it. I ordered the Batman because like I told you guys, I wanted that Batman to be the BVS Batman for my collection, but somehow what they had listed and what ended up coming to me were two different things. But I'm not sad that I ended up with this figure. I like this figure a lot. Um, it was weird because seeing pictures, he kind of looked like he was wearing pajamas, and I had mentioned that before. But once you have him in hand, you see how intricate the detail is and how form-fitting his costume actually is, despite it being made of cloth. And I just couldn't be happier with it. It works perfectly. And the head sculpt is quite amazing. It is the best likeness of Henry Cavill, with the DC Films head sculpt kind of trailing behind second. Um, so yeah, I'm really glad to have this figure. I'm glad to actually get a chance to talk about this figure with you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna go about explaining like I normally do, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And you guys need to just get something to drink, get something to eat, or do what you normally do while you listen or watch, and we'll get this party started. So here we go. All right, let's start with the look of the figure, the aesthetics. Overall, sculpt-wise, like I said earlier, this head sculpt, both head sculpts actually are pretty awesome and on point. Uh, the look and fabrics chosen and the way they, interwoven the plastic with the materials and the patterning on top, it's dope. It's dope. It's really dope. The lack of a wire in the cape is good for me because I prefer to pose my capes myself. I don't like wires and capes that much. I mean, sometimes they do it right and it doesn't bother me, but most of the time they fuck it up and I don't like it. So the way they did it here actually works for me. Even where the cape is joined to the costume is pretty dope. It's like directly or accurately attached to his costume, so it feels, feels proper. Um, I like the way that his musculature works for this, this set, this figure. Mezco does a good job of picking the right bodies to go with, each release. Um, the paint on this particular head sculpt is a little bit, meh, because as you can see, I have light shining on him to make it look like he's really using his heat vision, and it looks right there. But when you move away from it, then it's kind of like, So I think the idea was that they want you to use a red light to get that off. But when you have him posed correctly and your lighting is decent and whatnot, it looks good. Um, but I really like his posability. I like his uh, what am I saying? The shape, his stature. It's perfect. They didn't do a very they didn't do a bad job with it, and I just can't believe how accurate they've been with the details on them. I mean, you see Mafex and you see Figuarts constantly struggle with complete accuracy, and then here Mezco comes along and they're doing it with cloth nonetheless. And when you have him in a setup with your Trinity, he really looks the part. Even if you got the Mattel Batman in the background, which I'm not a fan of it, but it kind of works for this setup. Accessories. Now, he doesn't come with very many accessories, and that's kind of fitting. Most Superman figures just come with a couple hands, if they even come with hands, maybe an extra head or two, and then like some other piece of something. Most of the time, it's like a combo, or it's one of those things. They gave you all those things here. You have the manhole cover that he ripped in half to destroy the sonic disruptors that Batman, or were they machine guns? I think they were machine guns. But anyway, to destroy Batman's traps, you've got the two head sculpt. One very well done, angry Superman, and then one heat vision Superman. And then we have 3 different pairs of hands, gripping hands, kind of, gesturing hands and flight hands, which are nice. The paint on all of these is very simple. There's a very subtle, I don't know if you want to call it a wash, but like an overspray to get the, to bring out the shadows. I really dig the look of the manhole cover. It's very well painted with a nice wash and a lot of like dry brushing to give it that worn metallic, finish. And it works. I mean, when you have it all put together, it looks really good when you crack it apart. And I left it cracked so you can see that the 2 parts fit. Everything looks good. This face is the better of the 2 extra head sculpts. It's got that simple overspray that some people don't like, but it doesn't bother me. This is the problematic head, but you need to light it the right way, and that's pretty much it. A lot of people complained a lot about that head, and I mean, it's pretty obvious what you're supposed to be doing with it, so I don't really see why it's necessary to complain. Now let's take some time to compare. This figure is a 6-inch figure, so he fits in well with a lot of your other 6-inch figures, and of course people are going to want to compare him to other figures. I like him with my Figuarts Batman. I like how he scales with a lot of the other figures. He looks like a Superman figure, which is awesome. He doesn't feel like a Mego figure, which is what I was afraid of when I started getting into this line. So, seeing him with the other heroes, he just looks good. Even with your Marvel stuff, with your DC stuff, it doesn't matter. He scales well. He's not too tall. He's not too short. He's not too bulky. He really looks cool, amongst other Superman figures because, he fits. He doesn't look out of place. And he looks even more awesome when you have him with some big 7, big 6 movie figures, whatever you want to call it. Big 5, because I don't have the Aquaman. But I like the way he looks with the movie Justice League folks. He's just a good figure. I mean, they did the damn thing. Props to Mezco for what they've done here. Because, this format could be hit or miss. And they managed to strike the perfect balance between the quality that you would get in larger figures like Hot Toys and the, I want to say playability, the toyetic playability of, 6-inch figures. So it doesn't feel out of place. He feels like one of your figures. He doesn't feel like a museum piece like Hot Toys often do. So props to them for that. Alright, let's talk articulation. This dude's got really good articulation. The head is free. I mean, you should know by now if it's Mezco, they're gonna have a lot of, movement or freedom of movement in their limbs. The neck is a compound neck. It's double barbell. You've got the neck, one at the base of the neck, and then you have the head. If you use the neck, the head, and the upper torso together, you can make him look up really far. If you want him to look up to fly, you can actually get him to do that easily too. He has a nice little ab crunch. I think it's a ball jointed ab crunch and not just an ab like joint, like a standard bend. Like I said, he has complete range in the head. Shoulders have complete range, complete with a butterfly joint. It's a slight butterfly. He has swivel at the bicep, double jointed elbows. I was gonna say double jointed knees. I don't know why I do that. And the suit doesn't restrict the movement. That's the best part. Because sometimes when you have fabric, it restricts it restricts the movement. His wrists swivel with no problems. The waist moves a little swivel. You've got swivels at the thighs. You've got double jointed knees. You've got ball jointed feet. You've got a swivel at the top of the boot. And I mean, it's just pretty perfect in terms of what he can and cannot do. And I love that the suit sometimes kind of helps hold things in place. And that is a huge plus for me because sometimes I need that. And it's one of those things you don't know you need it until you get it. And then when you get it, you're like, oh shit, this is pretty awesome, So props to them for giving us so much with this dude's articulation. like I said earlier, the cloth costume helps hold joints in place because it's so tight that it just, I mean, it can't do anything else, and I love that. I noticed it with the Dark Knight Returns Batman, and you still have that here. And the ball joint is really nice on his ankle. It gives you all the range you need. I mean, there's really not much that you can't do with it, and you know, it holds really well for the wide-legged stances. You know, I mean, they did their thing, so you know, props to them for that. It's the way it should be all the time. And now for the bottom line. I guess you guys could tell by my opening remarks and everything I've said thus far, I love this fit. It's a very good, it's not even very good, it's an amazing take on what Mego was trying to do years ago. You know, having the combination of cloth, you know, what do they call it, soft goods on top of a plastic action figure with like a highly articulated plastic action figure, that's dope. You know what I mean? And when you do it to this degree, where the details are so fine, where the scaling is so meticulously done and on point that we don't have to ask, you know, does it fit? You know what I mean? Like when you look at the designs or the patterning on the weave of this costume, it looks just like the film. And the scaling of the Kryptonian shapes or characters that make up the mail on this armor or on this suit, they're scaled down perfectly to look like they do in the film. And it's crazy because a lot of people try to do this film accurate stuff and they don't really get it off. But somehow Mezco has managed to deliver such ridiculously high quality in such a small figure, and they do it repeatedly. Like I haven't seen any reports of people getting figures that were just, you know, in poor condition or, you know what I mean, where details were lost. So this is an S-class effort. When I got this figure, there were tons of Superman figures, Mezco Superman stuff on eBay. So, you know, you would owe it to yourself if you don't have Superman and you like this look to get one of these for yourself. This is an S-class effort, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this has been my look at the Mezco BVS Henry Cavill Superman. It is a must-get if you love Superman. He will look good on your shelf. He will look good with your teams. And that's about as simple as it gets. I mean, he's dope. And because of people's, you know, kind of mismatched love for Batman versus Superman, you know, or over Superman, it should be really easy to find a copy of this figure. At the time that I got mine, when I did a search, like I said, I did a search on eBay for BVS Batman from Mezco, and I got maybe a handful of hits that were not $200 or $300 or more, and this was one of them. And then it turned out they sent me to Superman anyway. Superman were abundant, you know what I mean, and they weren't expensive. None of them were over, I want to say the most expensive one I saw was like $80, and that's it. So, you know, you guys can easily find one of these bad boys. It's just a well done figure, you know, and it's worth the time, it's worth the effort, and it will look so good in your collection. So if I were you, I would pick him up. You won't regret it, like I said before. I might have to change my stance on Mezco because I had such a shitty experience with my Dark Knight Batman figures from back in the day, the Dark Knight Returns figures. Their customer service was just complete shit, so I wasn't interested in dealing with them again. But maybe if I buy from a third party, maybe that can help fix the experience for me and people like me. But like I said, this figure, S-class stuff, if you really need to have a Superman, a Henry Cavill Superman, so you can do Justice League and BVS and all that shit right, you know, instead of BVS, you could do World's Finest. Hey, get them. Start reliving what you need to relive. But until then, I'm going to close on this note. Peace outside. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please give it a like, a share, let your friends know. Check me out on social media. All the links are in the description. And if you really want to help me out big time, jump on Patreon and support the channel. Every little bit helps, the smallest amount to the largest amount.